G'day Australia! Out here, 1,000,000 hectares isn't a brag, it's just the back paddock. From the treeless Nullarbor to the Cooper's floodplains, from the Barclays black soil downs to the Pilbara spinifex, we're counting down the giants, numbers 19 to 11, the stations that run mobs of cattle and sheep across country bigger than some nations. This isn't ranch country, it's station country. Pastoral leases, bores and troughs, ringers and jackaroos, road trains and long fences disappearing into the heat haze.
If you love Outback graft, dawnmasters, bore runs and cattle turned off, stick with me. Let's get into it.
At number 20 is Mount Freeling Station in the far north of South Australia near Lyndhurst. 1,002,000 hectares, 10,020 square kilometres. Mount Freeling covers about 1 million hectares of arid rangeland, making it one of the largest pastoral leases in the country. This station runs livestock on hardy gibbered desert country, with operations historically focused on sheep and now predominantly cattle due to changing conditions and wild dog pressure. Despite its remote location and harsh environment, Mount Freeling has thrived by employing waterbores and prudent land management to utilise scant rainfall. Little is publicly documented about Mount Freeling's early history, but its sheer size and survival in such tough country is an achievement in itself. Today, it remains a massive outback holding, contributing to Australia's pastoral industry by turning off fattened stock from country many would deem inhospitable.
19. Rawlinna Station in Western Australia, 1,011,714 hectares, or 10,117 square kilometres, a very large sheep station. Rawlinna sprawls across just over 1 million hectares on the Nullarbor plain, about 400 kilometres east of Kalgoorlie. For decades, Rawlinna was owned by Jumbuck Pastoral and ran huge flocks of Merino sheep, around 60,000 to 65,000 sheep on average, producing fine wool on its vast semi-arid plains. Established in 1962, Rawlinna grew into one of the world's largest working sheep stations. A notable challenge here is predator control. Extensive fencing and wild dog management have been key to sustaining the wool enterprise. In recent years, Rawlinna drew interest from major pastoral and investment groups. The station's legacy as a wool powerhouse endures. Its sheer scale and the fact it once ran tens of thousands of sheep on the treeless Nullarbor plain is a testament to Australian pastoral ingenuity.
Coming in at number 18 is Tanbar Station, 1,021,904 hectares, 10,219 square kilometres, covering just over 1 million hectares in Queensland's Channel Country. Tanbar lies southwest of Windora and even includes an outstation, Mount Howitt, as part of its operations. The Cooper Creek flows through Tanbar, meaning large portions of this station are lush floodplains during good seasons. These richly grassed swamps allow Tanbar to fatten cattle on natural pasture when the Channel Country floods, producing top-quality beef in the boom times. Now owned by Paraway Pastoral, Tanbar is run primarily as a breeding and growing property for beef cattle. It carries many thousands of cattle, exact numbers vary with seasons, and is known for turning off well-finished stock after big floods. Historically, Tanbar was part of Sir Sidney Kidman's legendary holdings in the early 20th century. By 1931, it spanned about 7,770 square kilometres. Subsequent expansions, like adding Mount Howitt, have boosted it above 10,000 square kilometres today. Managing floods and droughts is the story of Tanbar. In wet years, it's a grass paradise. In dry years, a dusty challenge. Its achievement is harnessing the extreme boom and bust cycles of the Channel Country to reliably produce beef cattle.
At number 17, we have Hedingley Station on the Georgina River in far western Queensland. 1,030,200 hectares, that's 10,032 square kilometres. Hedingley spans just over 1 million hectares of prime black soil downs country in the Gulf region.
It's capable of running roughly 40,000 head of cattle, predominantly Santa Gertrudis breeds well suited to the climate. In fact, Hedingley is composed of 3 contiguous leases, Hedingley, Walgra and Carandotta, that operate as one giant entity. Now owned by the Australian Agricultural Company, it serves as a major breeding station, even contributing cattle to AACO's Wagyu crossbreeding program for premium beef. The station's fertile Mitchell and Flinders grass plains, nourished by seasonal floods of the Georgina, make for excellent fattening country. Historically, Sydney Kidman owned Hedingley in the early 1900s, and it went through periods of sheep grazing and even abandonment during hard times. But by the mid-20th century, Hedingley was a cornerstone of cattle production in the region. Its success lies in the abundant natural pasture and water. In good seasons, there's ample feed and the station turns off thousands of quality cattle. Scale and productivity define Hedingley. 1 million hectares of grassland supporting tens of thousands of cattle, quietly supplying beef to Australian and export markets year after year.
Newcastle Waters Station in the Northern Territory is number 16, 1,033,101 hectares, or 10,353 square kilometres. Newcastle Waters Station in the Northern Territory is situated at the historic junction of 3 major stock routes. This station is famous as a meeting point for drovers in the old days. Today, Newcastle Waters runs about 45,000 head on its well-watered Barkly Tableland plains. It includes around 20,000 breeding cows, mostly Brahmins, and turns off some 13,000 cattle annually, many exported live to Indonesia. The land here is excellent grazing country, open grass plains and floodplains that benefit from monsoonal rains. Back in the 1880s, the station was established by Dr. W. J. Brown and later owned for 50 years by the legendary Sir John Lewis and family. In the 20th century, it was owned by media mogul Kerry Packer, who even sent his son James to Jackaroo here. The old Newcastle Waters Township now stands as a ghost town, a relic of the time when cattle droving was king. Under current owner Consolidated Pastoral Company, CPC, Newcastle Waters is a modern operation with extensive water infrastructure and paddocks. Its big achievement is marrying that rich history with high productivity. It's one of the most productive cattle stations in Australia, capitalising on the rich Mitchell grass to raise tens of thousands of export quality cattle each year.
Ranking 15th is Andado Station, a vast 10,850 square kilometre cattle station in the Simpson Desert region of the Northern Territory. Andado is the easternmost homestead before the Simpsons' endless dunes, truly remote country. The station's landscape is unique. Red sand dunes, spinifex plains, gibber flats, and even occasional swamps among the dunes that fill after rare rains. Despite the harsh desert environment, Andado carries cattle, usually a few thousand head, depending on seasonal conditions, that graze on hardy native pastures and browse. Historically, Andado was run by the legendary Molly Clark, who preserved the original 1920s Old Andado homestead as a museum to outback life. The station lease itself dates back to 1880 and notably includes the Mac Clark Conservation Reserve, protecting a stand of the rare acacia poos, waddywood trees found only in this region. Today, Andado is owned by Crown Point Pastoral, who acquired it as part of an organic beef venture. It remains extremely isolated. The homestead is roughly 240 kilometres southeast of Alice Springs, near the NT-SA border. Andado's achievement is in its adaptation to desert ranching, using artesian bores for water and careful stocking rates to protect the fragile land. It's a station where camels and brumbies roam alongside cattle and where the sheer remoteness and natural beauty leave a lasting impression on anyone who visits. Macumba Station is at number 14, covers approximately 11,063 square kilometres in northern South Australia. Located northeast of Oodnadatta, Macumba occupies a mix of sandhill country, stony gibber plains and flood-out creek systems in the Lake Eyre Basin. Several creeks, including the Macumba and the Alberga, traverse the property, creating waterholes that sustain cattle during dry times. Macumba's history is rich. The station goes back to the 1880s and was once owned by Sydney Kidman, the cattle king, who bought it in 1905. Under Kidman, Macumba was known as one of the best watered stations of the north by 1917, thanks to new artesian bores that yielded tremendous water flows. The station has seen wild floods and bitter droughts. In 1892-93, a drought killed an estimated 1,000 head of cattle when every waterhole dried up, while in 1908, big floods swamped the land after heavy rains. For most of the 20th century, Macumba was part of S. Kidman & Co.'s empire. In 2016, it was sold to Australian Outback Beef as part of the Kidman Station sale. Currently, Macumba runs cattle, having transitioned fully from sheep long ago due to dingoes, and benefits from those reliable bores and seasonal creek flows. Its achievement? Enduring the boom and bust climate of the outback for over a century. Macumba's large area and diverse terrain allow it to carry a self-replacing herd of cattle that can be shifted to find feed and water even in tough times, exemplifying resilience in pastoral operations.
At number 13 is the Narwitooma aggregation, about 11,000 square kilometres of cattle country west of Alice Springs in the Northern Territory. This is not a single traditional station, but a group of 4 pastoral properties, including Narwitooma Station, Glen Helen, Derwent and the Inner Merino lease, now operated together. In recent years, a Queensland-based company backed by international investment purchased these properties. The combined holding covers rugged Central Australian terrain, from the scrubby foothills near the West Macdonnell Ranges around Glen Helen Gorge to the sandy Spinifex Plains further west. This aggregation is managed as part of an organic beef enterprise, supplying grass-fed beef with organic certification. The total herd across Narwitooma and its sister properties is large. Exact numbers aren't public, but several tens of thousands of cattle are likely spread over the entire 1.1 million hectares. Historically, Narwitooma Station itself dates back to the early 1900s. The sale marked another chapter of consolidation in the industry. Notably, parts of this aggregation border or include areas of high conservation value. For instance, Glen Helen is known for tourism and natural springs. The Narwitooma aggregation's significance lies in new models of pastoral investment. It highlights how outside capital and organic practices are shaping the future of outback stations. By uniting multiple leases under one operation, it achieves economies of scale and the ability to rotate cattle across diverse landscapes, from sandy deserts to riverine flats. Clocking in at number 12 is Quinyambie Station, an expansive 12,065 square kilometres leased straddling the South Australia-New South Wales border northwest of Broken Hill. Quinyambie is an extremely arid outback country, part of the Strzelecki Desert Channel Country interface. Despite the harsh climate, Quinyambie runs about 9,000 head of cattle with a small crew of just 4 staff. That low stocking rate, roughly 1 beast per 133 hectares, reflects the sparse vegetation and erratic rainfall. Historically, Quinyambie was a sheep station and later became part of S. Kidman & Co.'s portfolio. In 2010, it was bought by the Matoru Pastoral Company, a local family outfit from Kidman. The station's name is derived from Aboriginal language and, like many properties in this corner, it likely started as a sheep run in the 19th century until advancing desertification and dingo pressure prompted a switch to cattle.
Quinyambie's terrain includes dune fields, gibber plains and ephemeral watercourses that flow toward Lake Frome. A notable feature is that a large portion of Quinyambie's northeast lies within the dog-proof fence. It directly adjoins dog fence country, which has helped it maintain cattle production. South of the fence is sheep country. The challenge and achievement of Quinyambie is making a viable cattle operation on land that averages well under 200 millimetres of rain annually. With careful water management, bores and pipelines, and conservative stocking, Quinyambie continues to turn off organic certified cattle that are tough, healthy and well suited to the environment. It stands as one of the largest family-owned stations in Australia, proof that even in the most remote corner, local pastoral families are keeping the tradition alive.
Western Australia's De Grey Station comes in at number 11 with about 1.214 million hectares of Pilbara rangeland. De Grey holds a special place in history. It was the earliest pastoral lease in WA, first taken up in 1862. Located east of Port Hedland at the mouth of the De Grey River, this station initially ran sheep and was famed for its wool. By 1886, De Grey grew to nearly 3 million acres, around 1.214 million hectares, and was stocked with tens of thousands of sheep. It had 16 paddocks, fenced by 322 kilometres of six-wire sheep fence, a remarkable feat for the 1880s. The station even provided wool for British Army uniforms in World War I. In 1914, its owners supplied wool for the British Expeditionary Forces uniforms. De Grey transitioned to cattle in the 1970s as wool prices fell and wild dog attacks made sheep raising difficult. Today, it's owned and operated by the Bettini family, who runs several Pilbara cattle stations. De Grey now runs a herd of around 6,000 cattle, predominantly Brahman cross, on its mix of coastal grasslands and inland acacia scrub, a modest herd size reflective of the Pilbara's lower carrying capacity. The station sits in cyclone country and has weathered ferocious storms, such as a cyclone in 1889 that destroyed buildings and fences and killed 1,300 sheep. Despite challenges, De Grey's achievements are many. It spearheaded pastoralism in northwest Australia, implemented large-scale water storage and fencing very early on, and survived the swings of fortune in wool and beef. It remains one of Australia's biggest stations by area and one of WA's most historic pastoral properties, symbolising the grit and adaptation required to ranch in the Pilbara for over 150 years.